Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and today I've got a very special list for you today because we're talking about video game super soldiers. Albeit super soldiers that actually, when you scratch the surface, are a little bit crap. So let's take a look at these super duper duds, as I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video game super soldiers that were completely useless. Number 10, Batman Arkham Origins, the Electrocutioner. Batman Arkham Origins is kind of the dark horse of the Arkham series of video games. Fans either really like it or really dislike it. The story of Arkham Origins pitted the Dark Knight against 10 elite assassins from all corners of the DC universe. Each one is hungry for the $10 million bounty that was placed on Batman's head by the Joker / Black Mask. And the second of these super-powered assassins that Batman faces is called the Electrocutioner. And you know what? He is shockingly disappointing. The so-called Electrocutioner shows up, gives a very long threatening villain speech, shows us what to expect with his electrified gauntlets, and then gets taken out in one single kick by the Dark Knight, and is never fought again because he's killed in a cutscene by the Joker later in the game. Woof. Literally the only useful thing the Electrocutioner does in Arkham Origins is letting Batman nick his gloves. Harsh. Number 9, Marvel's Avengers, Taskmaster, and Abomination clones. For a game built on one of the hottest franchises in the world, Marvel's Avengers was released full of bugs, chock full of microtransactions, and had an extremely repetitive fighting system that could bore even the most die-hard of Marvel fans to death. And this tragically repetitive nature can be best seen in the clones of Abomination and Taskmaster. These bosses are 2 of the 5 that can be replayed after completing the main campaign. While they may have been fun and challenging for some in the main campaign, fighting them again and again with the same results just shows how weak they actually were when having to battle the team of Avengers. Taskmaster especially seems to be unable to battle 4 Avengers at once, and his mechanic is that he's meant to be able to copy the player's moveset and block their attacks, making him look like a complete idiot. Because in reality, both bosses can be beaten the same way by just simply mashing the attack and dodge buttons for 5 minutes. Ugh, how disappointing. Number 8, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, The Wolves. Ghost Recon Breakpoint is another game that disappointed fans with its attempt to create a third-person shooter RPG set in the awesome universe of Tom Clancy's hit books. Instead, it became yet another of the repetitive and unimaginative RPGs that Ubisoft seems to create en masse every year for fans to, well, endure would be the word. The main antagonists of this Ghost Recon game are called the Wolves, and are meant to be ex-ghosts that turned against their country for money and power. And they follow Cole D. Walker, who is a close friend of the main character and betrays his country for some, generic Tom Clancy villainous reasons. The Wolves are supposed to be the most elite troops in the world, enhanced with the most advanced technology that the 21st century can make. But instead, these admittedly badass-looking soldiers are easily dispatched by the player's Ghost Squad with normal bullets, drones, car grenades, and even old-fashioned knives. When compared to the robotic Terminators that show up in one of the game's free DLC packs, the Wolves just pale in comparison. They offer no real resistance or any kind of fun in an already pretty unremarkable game. Number 7, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, Sith Sentinel droids. The mighty empire of the Sith in Star Wars The Old Republic was reinforced with battle droids that look pretty similar to Battlestar Galactica's original Cylon warriors from the 1970s, and like many of the robotic enemies in the game, these chrome robots are extremely fragile if the player has decent weaponry. It doesn't even need to be a lightsaber, even a half-decent hacking skill and access to a nearby Sith computer terminal can turn these metal armies off in an instant, or worse, put them upon their Sith masters with devastating effect. Ideally, these robotic soldiers were meant to be on par, if not better, than flesh and blood humans, and instill fear across the galaxy as they crush the armies of the Old Republic under their metal boots. But in reality, they just fall apart easier than C-3PO in any of the movies, and are laughably just not scary at all. Number 6, Middle-earth Shadow of War, the Nazgul. The Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit films make the terrifying Nazgul, the 9 servants of the Dark Lord Sauron, out to be the ultimate warriors of his dark army. They can slaughter hundreds of men and elves single-handedly. Their very presence stills the hearts of hobbits, men, wizards, and horses with unshakable fear and the sense of imminent death. In the sequel to Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor, the main character, Talion, and his elf-on-a-shelf ghost pal are forced to fight every single one of the 9 several times over, and every time the elf-man duo just seems to win. in pretty short order, leaving the Witch King of Angmar screaming in fear. Now, while it's true that the pair have what could be defined as a host of superpowers and their own very constructed One Ring, it does seem to imply that even normal humans could actually wipe the floor with the Nine. This kind of makes them the weakest members of the Dark Army, and it has to sting when an orc with a crossbow elicits more fear than the 9 superpowered wraiths that were once the kings of mankind. Number 5. The Halo series, Hunters. Hunters in the Halo series are literal walking tanks who serve as the most devastating forces in the army of the Covenant. These tank destroyers are armoured head to toe in unbreakable materials and are armed with devastating plasma cannons that can tear normal soldiers to shreds and can punch cars clear across the map. When first encountered, these hive-minded warriors seemed to be unstoppable, but after several games in, it becomes clear that these troops were not as invincible as they first appeared. This is because while the Hunters are completely covered in heavy super armor, their backs, well, they've been left completely exposed. These Achilles backs, as they were, are vulnerable to every single kind of weapon available in Master Chief's collection. Grenades, handguns, shotguns, even just using his bare fists. As long as they were agile, even the smallest grunt in the Covenant could probably take down Hunters with a well-placed sticky grenade. Number 4. Super Mario Odyssey, The Broodals. In Super Mario Odyssey, Bowser once again returns to annoy Mario and the Mushroom Kingdom with his singular goal of kidnapping Princess Peach, this time to marry her and to force her to take care of Bowser Jr., presumably. To accomplish this absurd goal, Bowser recruited a gang of super powerful rabbits known as the Broodals to keep Mario distracted and, if possible, defeat him while he flies around the galaxy, conquering worlds and collecting important materials for his wedding. Now, you could then assume that Bowser recruited these rabbits for their powerful skill sets, but you'd assume wrong, because in reality these rabbits are just like every other Mario foe. Sure, they use very complicated hat-based weaponry to battle him, but they often leave themselves exposed to attacks on their super soft skulls. It only takes 3 jumps from Mario to knock these fuzzy guys and gals out completely. Honestly, the Chain Chomper is a more terrifying enemy to face than these super-powered, super-fashionable bunny bandits. Number 3. Mass Effect Saren. Saren was introduced in the very first Mass Effect game as the main antagonist to the player's commander Shepard. He's a Turian Spectre who turns on his entire galaxy because he holds a hatred for humanity and all other weaker races in the Milky Way galaxy. But even though he's the game's main antagonist, the player goes through almost 2/3 of the game before they even come face to face with him for their first battle. For a Turian Spectre with advanced Reaper cybernetic implants, Saren just decides to kind of play it safe on a discounted Green Goblin hovercraft and offers no real resistance or difficulty in this fight, and he's taken out with just normal bullets and grenades. And then the player has to wait until the very last boss to face him again. And they can even skip part of the final battle by convincing him to kill himself, which completely renders him useless for a superpowered villain. Either way, Saren just dies, and then the actual final boss fight begins, forcing Shepard to fight against his reanimated corpse. And his corpse, get this, is even less powerful than when he was alive, as it just jumps around the entire room, not really putting up much of a fight at all. Quite disappointing if you ask me, despite being a very good character. Number 2. The Super Soldiers from Far Cry. Okay, just a short one here. If you're going to make super soldiers, maybe make it so that they don't turn on you the moment that someone else becomes the alpha leader of the pack. Enough said. And number 1, Resident Evil 2, Mr. X. Right, okay, Mr. X is perhaps the most terrifying enemy of Resident Evil 2, both in the original and the remake. He's entirely immune to bullets, knives, grenades, helicopters, and all other Umbrella Corporation biological weapons, aka zombies. His slow, methodical approach to Claire and Leon terrified fans the world over, but while he can be intimidating and more than a bit of a hassle in Resident Evil 2's remake, he also kind of sucks as a mass killing weapon. Mr. X is only effective at killing Leon and Claire if he can grab them, and because he moves at the pace of erosion, means that you can just jog past him most of the time. With some careful weaving between rooms, he can be delayed from reaching the player for several minutes, and the tension is lowered quite considerably when you realise that he won't even enter some of the safe rooms, waiting patiently outside for you to be done developing your negatives. All of this makes for a super mutant that is truly super powered, but kind of just super sucks for the most part. Shame. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 video game super soldiers that were completely useless. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ0, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice. It's my personal gaming channel where I stream every single Wednesday and Sunday. It'd be great to see you over there. And I hope that you are treating yourself well, my friend, both mentally and physically. You are a true super soldier and you deserve love and respect. We all do as human beings, and do not let anyone or anything else tell you otherwise, okay? Now go out there and absolutely smash it. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.